My name is Maris Hale. I'm 32 years old. The day my family decided I was disposable, it came in a 10-second voicemail while I was staring at a spreadsheet. I was at my desk under the kind of office lighting that makes everything look a little washed out, eyes glazed over a trail of numbers on my monitor when my phone buzzed. I glanced down, saw my mom's name, and let it go to voicemail. She knew I was at work. If it was important, she'd text. She didn't. Instead, when the notification popped up, I slipped in one earbud and pressed play. "You're out. Don't come back. We'll move forward without you." That was it. No hello, no explanation, no name. Just those words, flat and final, like she was reading from a script she'd practiced in the mirror. I replayed it once, then again, just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. Same tone each time. No anger, no tears, just finished. Like they'd finally found an excuse to erase me and didn't feel the need to make it pretty. I didn't call back. I knew that voice. I knew what "we'll move forward without you" meant. Decisions had been made. Lines had been drawn somewhere I hadn't been invited to stand. So I did what I always do when something breaks. I went to work. Not the job that paid my salary, the one no one ever put in a contract, the one that turned me into the unpaid CFO of my own family. I clicked away from the spreadsheet, opened a new browser tab, and logged into the family trust account. I was the one who had set it up years ago. My parents didn't understand the legal jargon, the tax benefits, the long-term planning. They just liked the idea of a safety net. I'd walked them through it, drawn them diagrams at the kitchen table, made everything simple. They loved that. They loved that I knew what I was doing. They loved it enough to let me handle everything, until apparently it scared them. The trust required my consent to move large amounts of money, to invest, to withdraw. It was the only thing standing between their impulsive decisions and financial disaster. They'd never questioned that, until someone started whispering that I had too much control. I pulled up the authorization panel. My name sat there, a quiet guardian built into the fine print. I revoked my consent. A small warning box appeared. "Are you sure? This action will restrict all pending and future transactions." Yes. I entered my credentials, confirmed the code that pinged my email, and watched as the system updated. The trust froze. Next came the joint account. It had started as a genuine emergency fund, something I set up after Dad broke his wrist on the job last year and couldn't work for a while. I'd watched my parents teeter on the edge of losing everything, and I swore I'd never let them stand that close to the cliff again. So I opened a joint account. I paid into it every month. I told them it was there for emergencies only. But over time, the transactions changed. Groceries became restaurant charges. Pharmacy runs turned into online shopping sprees. Emergency turned into convenience. And every time I saw a new charge that didn't look like survival, I swallowed the irritation and told myself it was fine. They were my parents. They deserved to enjoy life. I could afford it. That's what I kept telling myself. My cursor hovered over the close account option. I hesitated for maybe 2 seconds. Then I shut it down and tied any remaining balance back to my personal banking with two-factor authentication only I controlled. The balance dropped to 0. That was my money anyway. Last came the house. We'd been in escrow on a small 2-story place outside Portland, the kind of modest, light-filled house my parents could retire in without worrying about stairs or noisy neighbors. The deal existed because of me, my credit, my down payment, my name on the paperwork. They couldn't qualify a loan. I agreed to help on one condition. The house would stay in my name until they paid their share. They said they were grateful. They said they trusted me. And then my mother sent me a 10-second exile over voicemail. I called the real estate agent from an empty conference room, closed the door, and stared at my reflection in the glass as it rang. When she picked up, her voice was cheerful at first. "Maris, hi, we're almost at the finish line. I need my name removed from the agreement," I said, effective immediately. Silence. Then the smile dropped out of her tone. "Oh, is everything okay?" "No," I said, "but this isn't on you. Just send the withdrawal notice." She hesitated. "I don't want to get in the middle of a family situation." "You're not in the middle," I said. "You're the paper trail." She understood that. By the time I left work, the trust was frozen, the joint account was closed, and my name was off the house. I got into my car in the underground garage, sat for a moment with my fingers on the steering wheel, and waited for the guilt to crash over me. It didn't. Instead, a strange kind of relief crept in around the edges, a quiet, steady exhale I hadn't realized I'd been holding for years. On the drive home, my phone buzzed twice in the cup holder. I ignored it until I pulled into my spot. When I checked, I saw a missed call from my dad, one from an unknown number, and a text from my boyfriend Noah. "You okay? Call me when you get a second." I typed back. "Just had the weirdest voicemail of my life. I'll explain later." He replied almost instantly. "If it's your family, I believe you." I smiled, just a little. Noah had been around long enough to see the pattern. He'd watched my parents lean on me for money, watched my sister Tessa praise me in public and undercut me in private, watched my phone light up with emergencies that always seemed to call for my savings and my sanity. He'd told me more than once, "You know you don't have to keep saving them." I'd always shrugged it off. I'm the only one who can. Now, maybe for the first time, I was starting to wonder if that had ever been true. When I woke up the next morning and turned my phone back on, it nearly vibrated off the nightstand. 79 missed calls. There was a new voicemail from their lawyer. "We have a serious problem. Please call me back." I stood in my kitchen in my pajamas, listening to it, and then I laughed. It wasn't bitter or cruel. It was relief. For once, they had a serious problem that I didn't have to solve. Around noon, the text started. From Mom, "We didn't mean it like that." From Dad, "This was a misunderstanding. Let's talk." From Tessa, "Nothing." That silence from her said more than anything. Tessa didn't stay quiet by accident. My older sister had a talent for choosing her timing. She'd been dropping hints for weeks about streamlining things, simplifying ownership, gently suggesting that having my name on everything made things confusing. She'd wrapped it all in concern. "You're so busy, Maris. You shouldn't have to carry all this. Let us help. Let's simplify." That was her style. Get close. Sound helpful. Rearrange the pieces when no one was looking. I put my phone face down on the table and made coffee. I didn't answer my parents. I didn't call the lawyer. I didn't listen to the rest of the voicemails piling up. I waited. I wanted to see how long it would take before the desperation started to leak through their calm front. It took 3 days. On the morning of the third day, my phone lit up with an alert from my building's security app. I opened it and saw a grainy camera feed from the front gate. My dad was standing there, hands shoved into his jacket pockets, looking up at the building like it might answer him. He checked his phone, then looked up again, as if he expected me to appear in a window. He didn't buzz my apartment number. He didn't call me. He just waited. 10 minutes went by. I watched every second. I didn't let him in. Later that night, when I came home from grabbing dinner alone, I saw it. An envelope taped neatly to my door. My mom's handwriting was instantly recognizable. Neat, slanted cursive, like she was still trying to impress a nun at the front of a classroom. I opened it and read. A lot of vague apologies. "We didn't mean to hurt you. A few soft warnings. Please don't make any decisions you can't undo." No explanation, no accountability, no mention of the voicemail that detonated this whole thing. Just more gentle language, carefully chosen to pull me back into orbit. I read it once and dropped it straight into the trash. Still nothing from Tessa. Of course there wasn't. She was probably somewhere thinking this was all going exactly to plan. She'd finally managed to wedge me out of the center of everything, the trust, the house, the money, the decisions, and she'd done it without lifting her voice once. She thought I'd come crawling back, begging for a conversation, demanding to know what I'd done wrong. What she didn't realize was that I had no intention of going back at all. Not until the damage was complete. The thing about letting damage complete is that you have to be patient enough to watch it happen. 2 mornings after the note on my door, I made the kind of move you can't walk back. I called the real estate agent again. This time, my voice was calm enough that she didn't realize how serious it was at first. I was standing in my kitchen with a mug of coffee cooling untouched on the counter, staring at a printout of the escrow documents. "Hey, Maris," she said. "I sent your parents an update yesterday." "I need something in writing," I cut in. "A formal notice, not just removing my name. I want you to email them directly and state that I have withdrawn my participation from the purchase. Make it clear they can't proceed under my credit or with my down payment, ever." On the other end of the line, she went quiet. "I don't love getting pulled into family stuff," she said carefully. "I really don't want to create more tension than there already is." "You're not creating anything," I said. "You're documenting reality. They don't get to pretend I just got cold feet. I want their inbox to know exactly what happened." There was a pause, then a resigned sigh. "All right, I'll send it to them and CC you." "Perfect," I said. "And one more thing. From now on, any communication about this deal that involves my name, put it in writing." She understood. By lunch, the email had gone out. I didn't need to see their faces when they opened it. I'd lived with them long enough to imagine it. My mom reading it twice, trying to figure out how to soften the language in her head, my dad scrolling down to the numbers, Tessa pretending to be shocked, while quietly calculating what it meant for her. I didn't respond. Around 3, my phone buzzed with a new email notification. Their lawyer. He kept it short. Maris, I think there is more to this than you realize. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. I stared at the line, there's more to this than you realize, for a full minute. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part, the part that built the trust in the first place, filed it away. More to this. Of course there was. I didn't call him back. That night, my mom's calls started up again. I let them ring out. She followed with texts, all soft edges. We reacted badly. Your father was upset. We said things wrong. Please don't make any permanent decisions. Permanent. I almost smiled at that. We'd been living in a permanent decision for years. I just happened to be the only one willing to call it what it was. Just before midnight, my phone lit up with a message from Tessa. I hope you're proud of what you've done. No punctuation, no explanation. Just enough venom to let me know she was watching everything collapse and realized, finally, that I was the one kicking out the supports. I didn't answer. The next day, I stopped for gas on my way home from work. It was one of those gray Portland afternoons where the sky couldn't decide whether to rain or just hang there and sulk. As I locked the pump, I heard someone call my name. Maris? I turned. It was one of my dad's old friends. I hadn't seen him in over a year, the kind of man who'd always been at our barbecues growing up, laughing too loud at Dad's stories. Hey, I said, long time. He grinned, then tilted his head. Heard things have been rough with the house. There it was. I kept my face neutral. You heard that, huh? Yeah, your mom mentioned something to my wife. Said you pulled out of the deal. He lowered his voice like he was about to deliver a diagnosis. Said the financial pressure got to you. Rough stuff. Financial pressure. I didn't correct him. I just nodded, let him talk, and filed that phrase right next to mental instability in the growing list of things Tessa had probably tried out in conversation. On the drive home, Noah called. I put him on speaker. Hey, how bad is it? He asked. Define bad, I said. He let out a breath. Okay, so we're at the joke stage. That means it's either manageable or catastrophic. They're telling people I backed out because I couldn't handle it, I said. Apparently I'm fragile now. He was quiet for a second. You know that's not about you, right? That's them trying to keep their image intact. I know, I said. Doesn't make it less insulting. You want me to come over? He asked. Part of me did. Part of me wanted to sink into his arms, let him tell me I wasn't crazy. But there was something I needed to do first, and it required a version of me that could look at numbers and lies without shaking. Give me a night, I said. I'll call you tomorrow. He didn't push. I'm here, he said simply. Whenever you're ready. After we hung up, I drove straight to my apartment, went inside, and pulled out an old folder from the back of my filing cabinet. It was labeled Trust, Original Documents. Inside were copies of everything I'd set up years ago with our first accountant, before Tessa charmed my parents into switching to someone younger, sharper, more aggressive about growth. She'd said it like she was talking about a personal trainer, not the person in charge of our future. I called the old accountant's office. He picked up on the second ring, voice warm with surprise. Maris, haven't heard from you in a while. How's the family? Complicated, I said. Do you have 10 minutes? For you? Sure. I laid it out in clean, controlled bullet points. The voicemail, the exile, my withdrawal, the lawyer's email, the way people were already parroting a story that painted me as greedy and unstable. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he cleared his throat. I never liked that switch to the new firm, he said carefully. But it's not my place to say. What do you need from me? I need to know, I said, if there's any way someone could sabotage the trust from the inside without me signing off. I'm still listed as co-trustee. Nothing major should move without my explicit consent. But their lawyer says there's more to this, and I'm hearing things that make my skin crawl. He didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, if someone fed your parents the wrong kind of information, made it sound like changes came from you, or were in line with what you wanted, they might have approved adjustments without realizing what they were doing. Adjustments like what? I asked. Beneficiary structures, control clauses, emergency powers. It depends. I'm speaking hypothetically, he added. I haven't seen anything, but if your name is still legally necessary and someone tried to work around that, then they don't understand how the structure works, I finished. Exactly. We agreed he'd look over the copies I had and compare them to what he could still access from old records. It wouldn't be official, but it would be enough to tell me whether the ground had shifted under my feet. After I hung up, I felt that familiar mix of anger and heartbreak simmer under my ribs. It wasn't enough that they'd thrown me out over a lie. Someone had tried to use the system I built to cut me out of it, and I had a very good idea who that someone was. Later that week, another voicemail came in, this time from the new accountant, the one Tessa had pushed my parents to hire. "Hi, Maris," he said, overly cheerful. "I've been meaning to reach out. There are a few discrepancies in the trust paperwork and some recent activity I'd love to clarify with you. Give me a call when you can, so we can straighten it out." I didn't call him back. Instead, I forwarded the message to the old accountant with a single line. "This what you were talking about?" He called me within the hour. "Sounds like someone tried to amend the trust," he said, "and now they're realizing they can't fully execute anything without you." "Can you tell who initiated it?" I asked. "Not from here," he said. "But if their new guy is asking for clarification, it usually means someone walked him into a mess and then stepped back." I leaned back on my couch, staring at the ceiling. Someone had tried to step into the role I built. Someone who didn't understand that my authority didn't vanish just because my mother left a cruel voicemail and my sister stopped using punctuation. "Tessa," I said quietly. He didn't confirm it. He didn't have to. I thanked him, ended the call, and sat there in the dim light of my living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the distant traffic outside. They thought cutting me off emotionally would make me walk away from everything. They didn't realize that when you try to erase the person who built the foundation, the cracks don't show up where you want them to. They show up under your own feet. And I was done pretending I didn't see them. The unraveling began with one careless mistake, an email that was never supposed to reach me. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind where the air feels heavy enough to warn you a storm is coming. I'd just stepped out of the shower when my phone buzzed with a notification. Realtor. Withdrawal notice. I frowned. I wasn't expecting anything else from her. I opened the email and froze. She had accidentally CC'd me on a reply to Tessa. My sister had written, "The deal fell apart because Maris is mentally unstable. We're trying to manage things as best we can, but her judgment has been completely off." Mentally unstable. There it was. The phrase Tessa had been seeding in conversations. The weapon she'd been polishing for months. The one thing she knew could destroy both my credibility and my ability to control the assets she desperately wanted. For a moment, the world around me went still. Not hot, not angry, just still. Then I felt something cold settle into my chest. Not sadness, not shock. Clarity. I scrolled down. The realtor's hesitant response. "I'm sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, without Maris's involvement, the financing cannot proceed." No. I didn't let myself read more. Not yet. Instead, I hit reply all. I kept my message short, clinical, sharp, lethal. Attached are all payment confirmations, correspondence logs, and contracts showing. I have been the sole financial driver of this purchase since the beginning. There has been no instability. Please refrain from making further defamatory claims regarding my character or capacity. Per legal counsel, I request all future communication remain strictly transactional. Maris Hale. Then I attached PDFs, receipts, paperwork, proof, and CC'd my lawyer. It took less than an hour for the realtor to respond. Her tone was different now, stiff, polished, tiptoeing through a minefield. "Thank you for the clarification, Ms. Hale. I will ensure all communication adheres to contractual boundaries going forward." Translation. I'm not dealing with your sister anymore. Good, because I was just getting started. Tessa's rage. The phone rang less than 5 minutes after the realtor's email landed. "Tessa," I muttered to myself before answering. She didn't disappoint. "You ruined everything," she snapped. The moment I picked up, her voice was taut, trembling, not with fear, but with outrage. "You think you're the victim? You're the one destroying the family." I let her scream. I'd spent years listening to her tantrums, smoothing them over like wrinkles on a tablecloth. Not tonight. When she finally paused for air, I said, "Why did you lie about me to the realtor?" Silence. For the first time, she had no immediate comeback. "Tessa?" I asked again. Still nothing. Then, the click of the line disconnecting. She hung up on me. Perfect. She was slipping. Parents. The speakerphone confession. Not even 2 hours later, a text from Mom appeared. "Please, just give us 5 minutes. No yelling. Just talk." 5 minutes. That's all I needed. I called. The moment the line connected, I heard it. The tinny, echoing hum of speakerphone. They were both there. My dad started with some rehearsed nonsense. We feel like things got out of hand." My mom cut in. "We never meant to hurt you, sweetheart. We were reacting to what we were told." There it was. My opening. Told by who? I asked. Silence long enough that I heard my own breathing. Then Dad cleared his throat. Tessa said you were planning to take over everything, that you told her we were dragging you down, that you wanted full control, trust, house, finances. My heartbeat stayed steady. And you believe that? I asked. Mom hesitated. She said you told her that after dinner, in the car, during that argument. What argument? What car ride? Mom faltered. She said, there was no argument, I said. We barely spoke that night. We didn't ride together. We left in separate cars. So tell me, did either of you ever think to ask me if any of that was true? The silence this time wasn't defensive. It was ashamed. Finally, Dad said quietly, we just didn't know. You didn't want to know, I replied. But I wasn't done. She also told us, Dad added, voice strained, that you met with a lawyer to cut us out of the trust, and that you wanted her to manage things once we were out of the way. I stared at my wall, jaw tight. Smart. That was the lie she needed. Take her own schemes and pin them on me. And they bought it. You believed her, I said, because it was easier than confronting what she was really doing. They didn't deny it. Mom whispered, what do we do now? I took a breath. Meet me tomorrow night, all of you. I'll bring the documents. Then sharply, you bring the lies. They agreed. They didn't ask questions, because they were afraid of the answers. The dining table showdown. The next evening, we met in my parents' dining room. The same table where Tessa had spent her entire life being adored for simply existing, while I earned every ounce of trust through work they never saw. Tessa was already there when I arrived. She sat with her arms crossed, chin lifted slightly, the picture of someone who believed she still had the upper hand. Mom looked anxious. Dad looked pale. I didn't sit. I placed a folder on the table. In silence, I pulled out each sheet of paper, one by one. The realtor's email, my payment receipts, a timeline proving the dinner argument never happened. Screenshots of texts from relatives repeating Tessa's fabricated stories, a written statement from the old accountant confirming someone had attempted to amend the trust without proper authority. And finally, the accidentally forwarded message where Tessa implied I was mentally unstable. Each document landed with a soft thud, a slow rhythm that built tension like a heartbeat. Mom's lips parted. Dad rubbed his forehead. Tessa's jaw clenched harder with every page. I didn't speak for almost a full minute. Then I said, you wanted me out. Congratulations. Now you're out. I turned to my parents. She lied, and you let her, because it was easier to believe the kid who never carried the weight. Mom's eyes brimmed with tears. Dad didn't look at Tessa. He looked at me, and for the first time in years, there was something raw and real in his expression. Regret. I didn't wait for their apologies. I stood up, picked up my bag, and headed for the door. No dramatic exit, no turning back. Just the quiet click of the door shutting behind me. The cracks widen. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. A single text from Dad. We've removed her from the trust. A minute later, one from Mom. We were wrong. Please come back. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, but because the storm wasn't done yet. Not even close. 3 days after my parents cut Tessa out of the trust, she showed up at my office. I didn't know how she found the address. My firm had moved buildings a year ago, and I hadn't shared the new location with anyone in the family. Maybe she dug through old emails. Maybe she followed me from my apartment. Or maybe she was just desperate enough to get creative. Either way, there she was, standing in the lobby like she belonged there, all polished hair, perfect posture, and that carefully curated expression she wore whenever she needed something. The receptionist called upstairs. Hi, Ms. Hale. There's a woman here asking for you. She says she's your sister. For a moment, I considered telling them to send her away, but something in her timing struck me as strategic, not emotional. Tessa never showed up to apologize, only to reposition. I said, send her up. She stepped into my office with a bright, fake smile. Wow, she said, glancing around. This place is so you. I didn't offer her a seat. You have 5 minutes, I said. She sat anyway. Look, she began, adjusting her blouse in that subtle way she does when she wants to appear composed. I think everything that happened was unfortunate. Things were said, people were emotional. That's not what happened, I said. She ignored me. Mom and Dad have been confused, stressed. You took everything so personally. Tessa, I cut in, get to the point. She took a breath. I want to make things right, she said. I stared at her. With me? With the business. There it was. Her real motive. Mom and Dad are older, she said, leaning forward. If we work together, just a small role for me, then they'll see we're still united. It'll prove we can still. I actually laughed. She blinked. What's funny? I walked to my file cabinet and pulled out an old folder, a dusty draft of a lifestyle brand business plan she once begged me to fund. It was full of ambition, but no structure, all aesthetics, no math. I'd said no back then because it wasn't viable. I didn't tell her the real reason. She wanted to skip the work and cash in on the image. I handed her the folder. She flipped through the pages with a frown. What is this? Your idea, I said. Start your own. Her eyes snapped up to mine. You think you're punishing me? She asked, voice trembling. No, I said softly. Not yet. She stood abruptly, pushed the chair back so hard it scraped the floor, and stormed out. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. That evening, I called the accountant. I want full restructuring, I told him. Business accounts, ownership, control. Only 2 signatures matter now, mine and my father's. He paused. You're sure? This is irreversible. I'm done with reversible. Then I'll send the paperwork tonight. The business became a 2-person structure. No loopholes, no back doors, no access for Tessa, not even metaphorical oxygen. A week later, when the documents were finalized, I called my parents and invited them to dinner. Just us. They looked nervous when I arrived. Mom had set the table. Dad kept straightening his napkin, glancing at me, then away. We ate quietly. Then I placed a stack of documents on the table and told them everything, start to finish. The lies, the manipulations, the fake timelines, the attempted trust amendments, the rumors about my instability, the smear campaigns, the real estate emails, the relatives repeating her script. Mom covered her mouth. Dad's jaw clenched. I'm willing to restore the original plan, I said. The trust, the house, joint ownership, protection for your retirement, all of it. They both looked up, hope and shame tangled in their eyes. But, I continued, only on one condition. Dad didn't even wait. She's completely out, he said. Mom's eyes welled, but she didn't argue. She knew. They both did. For the first time in my life, my parents didn't defend her, didn't ask me to compromise, didn't tell me, she's your sister, like it was a magic spell that fixed betrayal. Dad added, do whatever you need to keep her out. It wasn't said with anger. It was said with surrender and with trust. That week, I re-entered the real estate deal. The agent nearly dropped the phone when I said I wanted back in. My name goes on everything, I told her. My financing, my terms, my property. Your parents? She asked gently. They'll have full living rights, I said, but no financial ownership. She blinked. That's generous. It's also necessary. We signed the revised documents. The house was mine again. A few days later, when the updated property records went public, Tessa found out. She sent one message. You stole it from me. I didn't reply. That same afternoon, her best friend messaged me, someone I'd known since childhood. She's been trying to get a loan. No one will co-sign. Another message. She said you ruined her life. I didn't answer that either. 3 weeks passed. Tessa vanished from the group threads. No calls, no dramatic monologues, no guilt-laced messages. Silence. People talk, though. Her old friends reached out. My cousin texted. Even one of her ex-coworkers sent a message. Every version of the story was the same. She burned every bridge. She was trying to gather sympathy. No one believed her version anymore. She had nothing left to leverage. Good. Consequences weren't cruel. They were overdue. Moving day for the Portland house was quiet. No balloons, no forced celebration. Just me and my parents unpacking boxes at our own pace. Mom hung a photo of the 3 of us from years ago, a rare picture where we looked genuinely happy, not posing, not pretending. She stood back to look at it and said softly, maybe this is what our family was always supposed to be. Dad nodded. We're different now, he said. Better. For once, I believed him. Later that night, after we finished setting up their kitchen, I drove back to my apartment. Noah was waiting outside my building, leaning against his car, arms folded, the streetlight painting him in warm amber. You good? He asked when I reached him. For the first time, I said, I think I might be. He wrapped his arms around me, steady and warm, a grounding weight. No chaos, no expectations. Just a man who had stayed through the mess and never tried to rewrite me. He kissed the top of my head. Let's go home, he said. I didn't correct him, because it finally felt true. It's been a month. The house is stable. The trust is airtight. My parents are calmer than I've seen them in years. No one brings up Tessa anymore, not because it hurts, but because we're done pretending she's part of the foundation. As for Tessa, last I heard, she's renting a small place on the outskirts of town. Tried launching a new project. Didn't go anywhere. She reached out to a few people for help, but they all knew the story now. She's alone. Not because I pushed her out, But because she built her life around taking from others, and when the taking stopped, there was nothing left. Do I feel angry? No, I feel clear. She thought cutting me out would give her everything. But now, she has nothing. And for the first time in a long time, I have peace.